All right, we're back. We're at BookCon 2015. This is BookView Now. I'm Rich Fahle, and we are right now with Leigh Bardugo.
Hi.
It's so nice to have you. We have you for an hour.
Yes, you
Yes.
lucky soul.
Settle in.
All right.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk, though, first about some of your books, which we're very excited about. We'll talk about the Grisha trilogy, but your new one, Six of Crows.
Yeah.
Which, first of all, they've told me when I was talking to some of the folks at your publishing company, they said Game of Thrones meets Ocean's 11. That's the craziest combination of words I've heard in a long time.
You know, you would think that, but I really just wanted to write a magical heist.
Right.
I wanted to write a heist, set it in the Grisha world, you know, have magic be an issue in it, and it was really fun to write. And I will say, even though we always use that as the pitch, the leader of my gang, Kaz Brekker, is not George Clooney. He's not suave, he's not slick. He is just the toughest, smartest, most desperate kid in the room. So,
Yeah, but there's a cool, I mean, the heist thing is really cool.
I think so.
And you obviously, there was some interest for you to find out the big theft element. Where did that come from in your world?
Well, I've always loved heist stories, and I love like the ragtag band of misfits pulls off impossible job. You know, Dirty Dozen, Inglourious Bastards, Guardians of the Galaxy even. And so I've always been a heist fan, but also I was raised by my grandfather. And he was like this thug from Boston who taught me to play poker and play pool and pickpockets. And
I like this guy.
he was fantastic. But he was this kind of high culture, low culture guy because he also loved opera and you know, made me read The Ballad of Reading Gaol when I was like 10. Yeah, so I think he was a big influence on this book. And although he did, when I would lose in poker, if I cried, he'd give me my money back, which was maybe not the best life lesson.
Yeah, well, your background, you know, where you grew up in Jerusalem.
I was born in Jerusalem, but I grew up in LA.
Okay, so that's another interesting Where did the interest in Russian culture and that background come from for you?
You know, on one side, I'm half Russian and Lithuanian. On the other side, I'm half Spanish and Moroccan. And I like to say, you know, we've been kicked out of every country. So I think for me, growing up, Russia always occupied the role of the kind of glamorous oppressor. It was scary, but it was beautiful at the same time. And I found very early on that even if you didn't know anything about Russia, you still had very powerful associations with it.
Right.
So you still probably had seen a Fabergé egg or images of the Winter Palace, but you also had these brutal associations like Stalin and the Gulag. And to be frank, that's a very valuable kind of association for a fantasy world.
And the books, like when you were first starting the Grisha trilogy and you were building that world, did you have confidence that there was going to be that interest in this cultural element? I mean, it was definitely a departure from some other fantasy books.
Well, that's part of the reason I did that. I mean, I'm a huge fantasy fan, and some of my favorite fantasies are set, you know, have medieval Europe and medieval England in particular as their cultural touchstone.
Right.
And I love broadswords and tunics and mead as much as the next person, but I just wanted to take people someplace different.
Right.
It was my first book, so I had no idea if anybody ever would want to read it, and I feel like I got quite lucky in that. But also, I wanted warfare, you know, modern warfare to be an issue. You know, what happens when you bring a gun to a magic fight was one of the driving questions of the book.
Yeah.
So that also changed sort of the time period that I was using as the point of departure.
Yeah, and there's a whole world around it. I mean, in terms of recipes and like there's, you know, some of the elements in Russia that inspired you, but the characters too. There's a language all of its own. That must be fun, and the whole world-building component of it.
It is fun. I think I've gotten a lot braver in terms of world building. Like, I think I made some decisions early on that I would probably go back and do differently, but I think with Six of Crows, I'm in a completely different corner of this world I've created, and I think I was more willing to take risks. I don't think I could have written that book as my first book.
Yeah, there is, but you mentioned you're still in the same, you said a different corner, but there's a connection there.
Yeah.
Did you envision that originally as a place where that maybe you could travel from one place to the other?
I can't say that I knew from the beginning. Again, my only goal in writing Shadow and Bone was to finish a book.
Right.
You know, and even the thought of writing a trilogy was pretty far from my mind until I was about halfway through and thought, this is a bigger story, and started taking notes on the second and third books. And then as I was working through the trilogy, you hear about Kerch, this other country, where there's a grand university and the World Stock Exchange. And I always had in my head that it was this world that was inspired by the Dutch Republic of the 1700s. And a little bit of like New Amsterdam, Old Amsterdam, you know, a little bit of Vegas. So I really wanted to go visit, but I didn't know if I would have the chance. And fortunately, the Grisha trilogy was successful enough that people were interested in staying in the world.
Yeah. Well, I know, and the idea of Six of Crows allows you to, you said, be more brave. I mean, so you've learned a few things along the way.
I think so.
So do you know how long you want to go with this one? Where are you?
It's going to be 2 books.
Okay.
It's the kind of thing where once the team is built, you know, it could potentially be 12, but in my mind for now it's 2 books.
Yeah.
And I'm going to leave it there. And there's 5 POVs, and I will say you don't have to have read the trilogy to read Six of Crows. You
Right.
can just start with that. But it's multiple POVs, it's a heist, it's a prison break, it's, you know, everybody's got baggage you have to learn about and backstory. So it's a very intense writing experience.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about, when you thought about writing these books, were you always going to be a writer when you were getting out of school? Was that where you were going? You've done a lot of different things, but this is a cool combination of seems to be a lot of your interests.
Well, I always wanted to be a writer. I mean, I have a picture that my friend drew for me when I was 14. That's me at a book signing. Like, that was the dream. That was always the dream. And I was an only child, so I would, like, walk around telling myself stories all of the time. And I still do that. I just put my Bluetooth in so people don't think I'm nuts.
Yeah,
but it's an amazing invention. But then, you know, on paper, it sort of looks like, oh, I was a copywriter and I did this and I did that. But the truth is, I'd sort of lost faith in myself. I would get an idea, I would start a book, then I would just lose momentum. And I really had to commit to finishing a terrible first draft. Like, that was really the switch that had to flip, where I said, I'm not going to write a great book, I'm not going to write the great American novel, I am just going to get it done. And I didn't understand that what I was really doing was what a lot of authors do, which is they write the roughest first draft imaginable, and then they go back and they make it good.
So you knew, though, there was something in there.
Yeah.
Or maybe not new, but you felt confident enough to revisit it.
Once you have the whole story in front of you, you can step back and see it, and it gave me so much confidence to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And, you know, in film or television, you get a very skewed idea of what writing a book is like. It's somebody, you know, somebody has a breakup or gets a great idea, and then they just sit there, or they cry, and then boom, there's the book. It's not how books get written at all.
Your book is the kind of book that can cross over really well into adult and younger readers. I mean, I think you're probably thinking about some of those younger readers when you're writing it, but I know for a fact that I have many adult friends that have read your other books and love them. What do you find in terms of the people that you talk to at some of your signings and the sort of people that are attracted to this world that you've created, this sort of Russian influence world?
You know, I find that I truly have fans of all ages.
Yeah.
And I will sometimes get emails or have people show up and think, oh, I thought I was going to be the only adult here.
Yeah.
Or, oh, I bet you don't get letters like this all the time. But I think there's a real misconception about young adult.
Right. Well, the category name probably starts that. You know.
And I think that's fair.
We're going to have to figure that out a little bit.
But it's a very broad category. It's not a genre. And the thing I've found is that the kind of major transitions that happen in young adults are things that resonate with everybody. You know, you don't grow up and stop growing up.
Right.
You know, you get married, you get divorced, you move to a new city, you start a new job, you go through these incredible transitions. You're always trying to find your tribe and figure out who you are. And I think that's one of the reasons so many adults really like these books.
Yeah, and I think the idea of finding your tribe, events like this, you know, whether it's Comic-Con or BookCon, really is a place where you see those tribes really gravitating. They'll find you and they'll find some of the other things they love, but all in one place to have this many people here.
I love Comic-Con, I do, and I'm definitely an SF&F girl, but this is my first year at BookCon, and it's really something special. You know, Comic-Con, it's a lot of noise, a lot of TV stuff, a lot of sound and fury, a lot of boobs, and you know, BookCon is much more my people, and I feel like it's like our little gathering, so I'm thrilled to be here.
It's one of the subsets that you're going to see at Comic-Con every year, but you're right, it is that slice
we're the
that is really focused on the written word part. But I also love the fact that the energy that you're seeing now, some of it is coming from Hollywood. It'll be interesting to see what happens with BookCon, but you're seeing a multi-platform sort of approach to some of these books now as they're being developed, as they're being thought about.
Yeah.
How about you? Is any of your stuff, I mean, where are we going with some of that?
Well, Shadow and Bone, the Grisha trilogy has been optioned, and David Heyman, who made Gravity and the Harry Potter films, is attached. I got to meet him in London. It was pretty cool.
It's always fun, even if they don't get made, to get to meet those people.
Even if they don't get made, and I have to say, he is a really smart guy. He's very fun to talk to, and he really likes to work with writers, so you feel, you know, you meet some people in Hollywood and you get the feeling they maybe didn't read the book.
Yeah.
Maybe their assistant read the book.
Yeah.
So that was really fantastic, and we'll see what happens with Six of Crows. It's always an exciting and terrifying thought to think of an adaptation, but I think we're seeing, I like to think that we're seeing sort of a shift towards having a little bit more respect for some of the things that storytellers do, particularly in young adult.
Right.
Instead of saying, well, this is popular, but we need to fix it. Instead saying, this is resonating with people, let's make something out of it.
Right. Well, we're going to be talking a lot more about your books, and I'm excited, but I'm also excited you're going to be here for the hour, and you got to help pick some of our guests.
I did.
Yeah, we have Rainbow Rowell, we have Maggie Stiefvater, and these are people that you've wanted to come on. And Rochelle Mead, do you know them? Are these friends of yours?
I know them. I know their books. Hung out with them. I mean, one of the great things about young adult is that we do a lot of the same festivals and conventions, and we get to sit around and talk, and it's just a pleasure for me to get to chat with them. So thank you for letting me do it.
Oh, you're kidding. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be the third wheel, sitting on the couch with you the whole time.
You can give me a poke if I start to do things wrong.
We'll be
have a
together
signal
the whole time. It's very relaxed. But now we're going to set up for Rainbow in just a second, and we have a piece that we shot from her breakfast earlier this morning, which we're going to shoot to right now. So we'll be right back on our set of Book View Now.